Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the MuseCast number 40. Dude, this is our 40th one. I didn't mention that when we were getting ready, but we've made it to 40 episodes, guys.
40 episodes, and we've been
pretty
I have
consistent. A pair of skeleton hands that I could have used to pat my back, but oh well.
Oh, yeah. I actually have a couple of skeleton hands,
got
too.
Props. I should have thought of it. Anyway, man, all kinds of fun things going on. I definitely do have something I wanted to talk to you about. It's kind of interesting. I've got to figure out if I can do it or not. But we're going to start off by bashing a movie that we haven't seen.
Yeah. I just did something different. So the new Mad Max prequel movie came out over Memorial Day weekend. The Furiosa. I think it's called Furiosa.
I think so.
Yeah. So cool character from the remake. I think you and I both like the remake, the one with Tom Hardy playing Max. Yeah, and I like it too. I mean, it was really fun, cool. I thought it was too short, and I thought that it kind of like was it left a lot of stuff unanswered, just real open-ended kind of stuff. A lot of fan theories that in that movie that Max was actually the feral child from the older Max, if you've ever read that one, the little kid with the long hair from the older Mad Max ones.
I never read. I mean, I grew up watching the Mad Max movies and Return to Thunderdome and all that.
Yeah,
but there were books. I never even.
Oh no! I didn't mean to say read. I meant to say watch.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. No. There might be books, but I'm not that big of a Mad Max nerd.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny. I remember loving those, and they were like a staple growing up. But I didn't get to revisit them. I haven't revisited them for 20 years, and I haven't gotten to. I didn't see them before I went to see the other one. I have this, some people would consider deficiency, but I would consider it an ability to just completely separate myself from the canon of stuff. And I can take a movie as a standalone, even if it has tie-ins and it doesn't fully match up. If the movie itself is just like great, then I'm into it. There were a lot of really interesting things about that movie that I'd like, the one with Tom Hardy, that I'd like to talk about production-wise, but we can get into that later. You were telling me before we got on this pod that it's bombing. Is it bombing right now? And it was
from what I understand, the budget for Furiosa is $168 million, and in the opening big Labor Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend, I think it's hit like 38 million, which they're. I don't know what that means so much, but they're just the opening box office numbers are really disappointing. And I've seen advertisements and headlines specifically from news sources, like entertainment news sources, that it is doing so bad that there's been a halt on Miller's future projects, which is a bummer. Yeah.
It's a trilogy that they're planning right now.
Yeah. So they're talking about planning a trilogy, and this movie's doing so bad that, and I haven't checked the validity of, this actually happening, but I've been seeing that headline, Furiosa bombs, halt all Miller's projects halted by studio because it's doing so bad. And I'm like, I've been reading people's reviews on these, I'm like on Facebook, I'm in a Mad Max like group. It's like a fan group that I'm part of because I like the remake so much, the Tom Hardy film.
Yeah.
I kind of went in and I joined some of these groups, and I'm in like specifically with the cars. I'm in a couple groups that are like really, there's people around the world who have the vehicle, the car, and like they do the replicas of these cars, and they're really cool. But in these groups, there's people saying that it's just so terrible that they've turned it off, that they wish that they hadn't started watching it in the first several minutes. And that there was one guy specifically, I like what you're doing there. There's one guy specifically that had said he wasn't going to see it in a theater. He watched a pirated version at his house of questionable quality. They're always questionable quality. And I want to see it just for this statement. And I want to say that in the film, this isn't a spoiler, but it's kind of a spoiler. In the film, Chris Hemsworth is in the film. The guy that played Thor in the Marvel movies. And through the film,
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth, yeah.
Hemsworth.
No L, sorry, Hemsworth. So and they're saying throughout the film, he's wearing a prosthetic nose because his character in the movie has a very a longer nose than Hemsworth's natural nose. So for whatever reason. But they're saying that through the entire film, you can see the prosthetic, that it's not even done right.
That's a bummer.
I was like, I have to see it just for that, just for the one guy calling that out. In every preposterous scene of Hemsworth with this nose, you can see that it's a fake nose. And I'm like, with $168 million budget, and you're goofing it on probably, as far as the male actors in the movie, the most dominant, relevant one, you're like putting an issue on his face for the entire film. Like,
that sounds absolutely crazy. And you know, I can't help but it does. You know, that's happened in other movies where they've added prosthetics on, and I wish I could remember an exact example. However, I think it still wasn't intentional, but it was comedies. Mm-hmm. Very different than trying to make it with, like, I don't know what this character's like. If they're extending his nose, maybe he's almost like comedic in some way. I mean, it'd be weird if he played some oddball. I haven't even seen the preview for this.
And I think I've seen it once. You know, I haven't really been paying attention. This is one of those movies where I'm like, I definitely want to see it, but I haven't been like fanboying out about it, you know, but it's just, there's been so much buzz about it in my feeds on social media that it's like, man, and maybe it's working. Maybe that's what's happening. And now I want to go see it more because of how much it's being talked about and how bad it is. And I kind of feel like, okay, this is going to tie into what we do. And so Frank, I think Frank Miller is his name, right? That's the writer director.
Wait, what's the name of the comic book artist that made the Sin City and all that?
Maybe that's Frank.
That's
Miller.
Frank Miller.
Yeah, I don't want to get him confused.
Yeah.
So the Mad Max Miller.
Yeah, it is Miller.
I feel like it might be a little bit of the Hollywood syndrome with the huge budget, right? 168 million, I think, is still a really big budget for a movie. There's a lot of complaints about the overusing CGI and
really
practical. That's the biggest overall complaint. The one guy had really specific complaints with the nose and this inconsistency stuff, but the overarching complaint is that it's too much CGI, because the original Max films are all, you know, these classic car action sequences, and I'm sure there's still real car action sequences in this film, but there's this huge complaint that there's too much CGI, and that I feel is a thing in Hollywood, where just because you can and you have access to do it, I don't know if that's become the easy button. I feel like in this day and age, you know, that it's obviously it's definitely safer, right? You have actors and stuntmen, you're doing all these crazy car scenes, and whatever you can do CGI is just going to be less of a liability.
Well, and you can do things you simply can't do, right? In practical land, right? Like, there's just options that start to open up. And like, one of the criticisms in the VFX community, visual effects community, is like, whenever they see, like, they call it magic camera. So it's like the camera moves that literally no camera could create. A lot of the most tasteful CGI is done where it's still lensed like it was a real camera, something an actual camera could do, an actual dolly move, a crane move or something. And obviously there's times where you could go totally outlandish, you know, like, for instance, the Avengers Endgame and stuff had some, you know, fantastical one camera take. It never cuts away. It goes from one superhero to the next superhero. And you know what? It's awesome. Like, I love that kind of thing too. Yeah. But it can start to escape you real quick when you start getting into that land, and it needs to be fitting for what the movie is. And you know, hearkening back to even Miller's more recent Tom Hardy one, you know, not even going back to the original Mad Max movies, the Tom Hardy one was extremely practical, but there was tons of sky replacements, and there was tons of there was CGI in there. Like for instance, you know, her arm, Charlize Theron's arm. That was obviously that was just wrapped in green material, and then they keyed it in with
And
a robot arm and stuff like that. And that's all good.
You have to do that, right? Because I mean,
You have to do that to create that. Yeah. Absolutely. But one of the, but they did all kinds of things that were really practical with that movie that were really exciting as a camera person. You know, when that movie came out, the last one, the Mad Max with Fury Road, that's what it was called, right?
Yeah, sorry, Fury Road. That is the name.
Yeah. When that came out, all the cinematographers were going apeshit over it because they did a few things that were really really new. For one thing, all the night scenes, every single night scene that's in the other Mad Max movie, that was all filmed during the day.
Yeah, we've talked about this, not on the podcast, but we talked about this specifically with a couple shots that
for us
in an episode that's not coming out soon.
But we've tried some day for night, and I have to hopefully make that work in the editing room. And but it was like this whole reverse tech concept where it was approached where you're supposed to overexpose the footage by a stop or two, which sounds bananas. Like, so you're going to film during the day and you're going to overexpose it. And the result was in the color grading suite with that colorist who spent a year on and off getting to work on it was what you ended up seeing. And granted, it's like a super blue color look. That's kind of what you get when you get that approach. But it looked fantastic. And what you get out of that is that you have a fully lit environment. When you light at night, you're just getting sectional lighting. You know, there's going to be a ton of black fall off. There's like, why is there a beam of light coming from this? Or when you analyze it, it looks really fake. But when you do the day for night, ironically, it almost looks more real because it's like a full moon night. And when you can see everything in a big valley and it's reflecting off dirt. So there was a lot of extra effort put into things that they did that was all practical. So to now hear you say that people are complaining about how much CGI there is, that's a shame. I will also point out that the other one was made over the course of nearly, I think, 18 years.
Fury Road?
Fury Road was made over the course of 18 years. The production started and stopped multiple times. The first time they went out to the desert, it was green everywhere. For the first time in 3 or 4 decades, it had rained. And so there was grass everywhere, and they had to cancel the whole shoot and go back. Then they lost funding. Then there was also this effort at the time that they were started making it. If you go back 18 years, and that movie came out, 5 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago now, something like that.
Something like that.
The Red camera, when they first started making it, wasn't a thing. So Red was a camera system that I have. Red was the original camera system that made digital something to take seriously for theatrical release. And now there's a lot of options in digital land, but Red was the innovator, but Red didn't really exist then. So Miller, was funding the creation of a new camera because he was determined that he was going to do it digitally. So this is kind of harkens back to what George Lucas did with Star Wars. The digital camera itself was first used for a full theatrical release by George Lucas in Star Wars Episode 2. And the entire, it might have been used in Episode 1 as well, but Episode 2, the entire movie was shot on a digital camera with a sensor that's ultimately not as good as your iPhone now.
Yeah, right?
Which is insane, dude.
Those were like early 2000s, weren't they?
Dude, this was back, I want to say, was it still in the 90s? I can't remember exactly when Episode 2 came out. No, it was early 2000s. You might be right. This was a long time. Well, no, I think it might have been 90s.
Well, I know. Okay, so I found Fury Road was 2015. So that's 9 years
9 years ago, yeah.
9 years old. So Star Wars Episode 2.
Yeah.
Episode 2 would have been 2002. 2002. Okay. So that means, I think Episode 1 might have been 99. Episode 1, 99.
That makes sense. Okay, there you go. And so anyway, Miller was trying to create a new camera system. They built I think like 20 of these different types of cameras. Then the production got canceled like again. So it got canceled twice. And then when they came back and made it, I believe at that point, I'm pretty sure they went with red. I'm not 100% sure. But I think at that point when they started to really make it, red was there. But they had filmed some scenes. And so it's weird like how it was pieced together. I don't know what they kind of put in the can, a decade before. Obviously, it couldn't have been with the actors because the actors all looked like it was filmed at one time. But what a wild thing. So this guy had 18 years to try and perfect the concept of this movie, build camera tech, do practicals. Had Roger, geez Wheeze, was Roger Deakins the one? He might have been the DP on Mad Max. I think he was. Anyway, whoever they got was great. And so, now you've got this one. I guess he's had time to work on it, 9 years to come up with a plot line and all that. But I don't know. It's a shame to hear that maybe it's going that direction where they're just using a bunch of CGI and weak characters.
Cinematographer John Seal.
Ah, that's right. I remember him.
S-E-A-L-E.
Yeah, he was the...
Yep, says he was the cinematographer on Mad Max Fury Road.
And he had an issue with this concept of filming the day for night and overexposing. It was the colorist, the digital colorist, that said you got to overexpose it. And they were like, "You're crazy." And I did some tests, and it just worked. And
it looks so beautiful.
Shit.
Yeah, those scenes in that
beautiful.
movie are amazing. And I remember you got me pumped up when we were doing the shot for the episode. I won't mention which one. And we were talking
coming out next, man. I'm working on it right now. I've got the whole music video laid out. I'm color grading it right now, guys. I'm color grading that. So I'm way in color mode right now. We're talking about colors and we're talking about Mad Max, and there's some similarities. That's hilarious. How this conversation manifested. That's funny, dude. Our episode's gonna come out when the new Mad Max came out, dude. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
And it's well, I can't say anything about our episode because it's not out, but it's that episode, and Mad Max just came out. Furiosa just came out.
Same summer. I mean, there's definitely some similarity. We obviously, guys, we don't have a Mad Max budget at all, but it harkens the elements of some of that feel at times. Yeah.
And so Mad Max's the Furiosa budget is it's 168 million. The Fury Road's budget was it says like a range between 170 and 180 million or something like that. So the Fury Road is a little bit more budget. It's about $10 million or so. Its total gross, Fury Road's total gross was 380.2 million. 380.2 million total box office gross. Now, Furiosa is sitting at 10% of that on its opening weekend, and I don't know.
I don't think it's comparable because it's like comparing album sales to 2005 to 2015. In that time, streaming happened, and so album sales have never been what they were. We had COVID happen since then, and we've got access to purchase movies almost a couple of weeks after they come out in theaters now at home. It's a completely different landscape.
And right? I was at Walmart the other day, walking at Walmart, shopping for something, and I walk by an 80-inch television for $500.
Dude, that's hilarious. I was just at Walmart 2 days ago with Felix, and I walked by. It was like a 65-inch TV. No, 72-inch. Yeah. And it was like $386 or something. I was like, that's insane. I mean, I know the quality is not amazing, but it's still a 72-inch TV.
And for a casual movie watcher.
Right.
Like let's face it, you and I, you specifically are going to be very, very, very particular about the image quality. You're gonna dial in and really, really kind of not be into anything that isn't up to the spec, right? Because it's your trade. It's your trade.
Like these blacks aren't black. It's milky. And it's not sharp.
I'm like a notch below that, where I want an extremely good visual. I want to experience like the sickest of the sick, but I'm not like, it's not, I feel like that I'm not going to have the knowledge or the ability to really notice it and be pulled out of the experience like you would. I think that's the kicker,
Yeah,
because you're so educated on the
I
aspect.
agree.
When you see it, it's going to take you out of the experience, and that's what you don't want.
For me, a bit, but you
Yeah.
know, I completely agree. The average viewer is going to be very content being able to maybe take a couple of
Eating
tokes,
it.
drink a beer, grab food when they want to, watch it in their house on an 80-inch TV.
Yeah,
You know,
instead of doing
it's
it, and and when it comes out on opening weekend, they're not there isn't that same incentive.
it's not
Not
the
when
same
people have
anymore.
80-inch TVs and a home theater system at home. It's like, I'll just wait till it comes out to the
I
house.
know, but I will say everything that I just said about the creature comforts. It is a shame because it's like I wish that it wasn't more expensive to go watch the movie in the theater than it is to just rent it at home, watch it on your 80-inch TV, and have access to all your food. But it's more expensive to go see it at the theater. And when you do go, there's a focus. You don't have the refrigerator. You don't have the people calling. You turn the phone off. You know, you're
Yeah,
honed in. The sound is significantly better. It's louder. Even if you have a good sound system, most people don't. Most people are watching with the speakers on their TV. That's very thin. It's just in the front. You don't know. It's like when you make a great recording, and then somebody just plays it for somebody on the phone speaker,
yeah,
you know, it's like
yeah.
you're not engulfed in it. You're missing to judge it on that level. So when you mention somebody that watched it on a pirated version at a low resolution, you're just squashing the effort in every way. You know, it's like it's just not respectful to what the full art is. Even if it's a bad movie, there's just no doubt about it that it'd be more of an experience in the theater. You are
Mhm.
with it just is a more focused in the moment engulfing thing to go watch it in the theater. I'm really happy I went and saw Oppenheimer in the theater. Like that's a movie that's just dialogue based. It's 3
Yeah.
hours. There's one scene that might have you might consider an action scene if that. And I'm still glad I
Couple
saw
of
it in the
big
theater.
explosions. Couple
That's
of
it. There's a bomb that blows up. That's it. No, I mean I'm trying to. I hope that's not a spoiler. The movie's excellent. I loved it.
Me too.
Tristan loved it, but it's just talking heads, and I still was like blown away at the cinematography, the story, the structure. I was totally pulled in the whole time, and it was. I just know at home it just is different. I'm kicking myself in the ass because I really wanted to go see Dune 2 in the theater before it left, and then like the last showings were happening. It just didn't. So we ended up watching it at home, and I loved it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think the last two Dune movies and that director are some of the top things happening. They are the top thing happening in sci-fi movies right now, and I just think it's gorgeous. I mean, everything about it is as well done as you can do it for that type of movie, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I've
it's
seen
apples and oranges.
I've seen the first remake once. I haven't seen the new
Okay,
one. I'm not like weirdly, I'm not a big Dune guy. Like
I
it,
never even saw the
yeah.
first Dune. I haven't
I've
seen the original.
never read the books. I've watched
Yeah.
it. There's something about some spice and big worms,
Yes.
and I like the atmosphere of it. I do.
Yeah.
I like the atmosphere of it, and
But it
it.
didn't. It didn't captivate. Out of curiosity, I'm just curious. How did you watch it? What was the scenario when you
Oh,
watched it?
I watched it at home on my I, I think 65-inch TV, and I have a
Uh
good
huh.
sound. I have a decent. I don't have the full sound, but I have a really
Yeah.
good sound bar and a sub,
Uh huh.
so you feel it. And
Uh huh.
I'm a stickler for that. Because
Yeah.
I have the downstairs living room TV is where I watch film and movies and whatever. And Amber wants me to watch movies upstairs in the bedroom with her sometime. We have a smaller TV on the wall up there in the bedroom that doesn't have it's just the TV speakers. And
Yeah.
I won't watch movies on that. Like,
Yeah.
especially like a first time watch of a movie, I just won't do it. And she's
Good.
like, "You don't ever want to watch movies in the bed." I'm like, "Well, it's not. I would watch the movie in the bed with you, but like it, I want to hear it. Like I
Yeah.
have bad hearing anyways, so at first it has to be loud for me to hear
Yeah.
it, and then two, I want to be immersed in it. And
Me too. If
sound
it's
is
a comedy or it's a show,
yeah.
I'll watch it on a TV speakers and wherever, you know.
I watch cartoons on there. The cartoons are
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Good recommended cartoon. Since we talked, I know you like cartoons. You like your adult
Yeah.
animation. So
Rick and
Kyron,
Morty.
yeah, Rick and
That's my
Morty's
favorite.
great. Kyron's got me on Smiling Friends. I don't know if you've ever heard of Smiling Friends. They're on season 2. Smiling Friends.
Are they really short episodes?
Yeah. They're like 12 minutes. Smiling
Okay.
Friends.
Okay.
The big yellow guy with the big nose. He kind of talks like his nose is stopped up.
Yeah, yeah.
Australian guy or New Zealand guy, one or the other, kind of similar, but the same people that made the show YOLO. It's like
I haven't seen Yellow.
okay, you watch at least one episode of YOLO,
Okay.
and then know that it's the same guy that did Smiling Friends. But I found a new one, and I haven't like binged watched a show in a long time, and this is an older show. It's not. I said it's new, but it's not new. It's called Gary and His Demons.
Okay.
I think it was on HBO, and so they had one season that came out, and then they did another season. And I got to tell you, that cartoon show is a masterpiece.
Really? Gary, I'm writing it down. Gary and His Demons.
Gary and His Demons, so
I guess
good.
it's on Max.
I think it's
HBO Max.
I think it's on Max. If it's not on Max, then it was on Amazon
Okay.
Prime Video. It's on one of those two. Like Gary and His Demons, dude. I got sucked in. I got the T-shirt. I had to find. I had to go online and find a T-shirt. It's so good.
Wow.
It's kind of like Men in Black.
Okay.
Like he works for like an agency. Gary's a guy who works for an agency, except rather than hunting aliens, he hunts demons. And it's just so good. He's like
Cool.
he's like the great, and this is a total sidebar tangent. We're talking about Mad Max here, but Gary and His Demons, sidebar, go watch it. There's a free plug.
Okay.
I thought it was great. I watched the entire two seasons, and they're short. Yeah. Check
Okay,
it out.
cool. I wrote it down. I'm because Tristan's out of school for summer, so we're going to try to watch a few things together and find some new stuff and all that. But the next thing I'm trying to introduce him to is some Coen brother movies. So he's gotten to experience, like I've taken him through the whole Tarantino set. He likes that. I got him. We watched Heat. He really liked Heat. You've seen Heat, right?
That's Al Pacino, Val Kilmer.
Yeah, and Robert De Niro.
Yeah, good
Dude,
stuff.
Michael Mann film. That movie is so good. I got him through The Usual Suspects. He learned who Kaiser Soze is.
Excellent film. Very unfortunate of what Kevin Spacey ended up doing.
I know, dude. That's a problem because he's done so many good things, and I don't know if I can like return to watching it and enjoying it. Especially, it's like I don't think I can ever watch American Beauty again. That's a little too close to home. Do you remember that one?
No,
It was up for that won Best Picture of the Year, or it was up for it. And it's him like ultimately. There's all kinds of things that happen in it, but he's a dad, and he has a fetish, and he starts getting his life together again because he wants to sleep with his daughter's friend, who's a teenager. Yeah, and I'm like, and I'm like, that's too close to home, man.
What's that mean? Oh, brother. Oh,
But dude, the movie was like so good. I think it won Best Picture that year. It was that good. But now it's like, I don't know, dude. That's actually kind of you. But the Wes Anderson, I've taken him through a lot of the Wes Anderson movies. I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan. He's in my top 5. And with the Coen brothers, he hasn't gotten to experience any of the Coen brothers stuff. So I'm torn on where to start with him, But are you familiar with the Coen brothers?
I am, but for some reason I'm drawing a blank on the
Raising Arizona with Nick Cage, The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I just watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou again.
It's so good.
Two nights ago. Let's see.
That's Roger Deakins. That's the director photographer for that.
Yeah. And so I could do an entire episode on how good "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou"
Right?
is. I
Dude,
didn't.
it's so
And
good.
it's been a while since I see it. I remember the first time I watched it. Like that's one of those movies. Like that's one of those movies that I don't talk about it that much. I realized it when I watched it the other day. Just how impactful that movie was to me as like in a person. Like it's actually further up in my top all-time favorite movies than I really gave it credit for in the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of years. Because when
Mm-hmm.
I came home for whatever reason after Memorial Day weekend travel, I was up in Tallahassee. I got back and I had spent a night alone. I wasn't alone, but I was by myself downstairs. The family was upstairs sleeping. I stayed up late. And I put "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" on. I just got it in my head. That's what I was going to watch. And I know that entire movie word for word. Amber came down at one point and I was just like reciting the whole thing. She's like, "Stop it. How are you doing that?" I was like, this is the greatest. I was like, "This is the greatest film of all time," because I was watching it right there.
Yeah.
Like so much perfect stuff about it. It's so the flow of it's so good, characters, and obviously it's based on a classic story, but it's based on a Homer's
Odyssey,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which I
but
never read. But.
so good. I would say start with that one. Start with
Well, I'm torn because he's currently kind of enjoying Nicolas Cage because he's a meme right now. And
yes.
so Raising Arizona might be, the Hudsucker Proxy was amazing. Then you got like more serious movies like True Grit and No Country for Old Men. And I mean, the Coen brothers are in my top 5 favorite directors. So my top 5 is Christopher Nolan, this is not the specific order. These are just the top 5. But definitely in the top 2 are Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino. Those are my 2 favorite. But then past that, it's no order. Wes Anderson, James Cameron, and the Coen brothers. But I'll tell you who's starting to work their way up, and definitely is in my top 10 already, is the Denis Villeneuve, who's the guy that made the Dune movies, but he's also done, like he did... oh my God. I want to call it Blade Runner. 2049. 2049, he did that one.
I haven't seen
Dude,
that one.
I don't even like the first Blade Runner. People hate me for that, but I don't. For me, the first Blade Runner was way too slow, and I didn't do much for me. I saw it way late.
It's Ridley Scott, right? The first wasn't
The
the first.
original one, I think, was Ridley Scott. Harrison Ford is the main guy,
Yeah.
and it's like a cult classic, right?
Yeah.
Like Mad Max is. But.
Art Deco, futuristic, kind
Dude,
of.
I saw it as a 20-year-old, and it was just way too slow, and it just didn't have enough. Like, I had been spoiled by modern cinema too much. But I love the new one. Roger Deakins, also the director of photography on that one. Fucking gorgeous. Ryan Gosling's the main guy in that. And he also did Arrival with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. And that's where the aliens land, and we have to communicate with them.
Really good movie. Yeah, they kept going.
Really good movie.
Talking. I do remember that being super good.
Super good. Very original.
There's another.
Oh, he did Sicario. Did you see Sicario?
No.
Dude. Benicio del Toro.
I like it.
Josh Brolin and Emily Blunt. Dude, you gotta see Sicario. And it's director of photography Roger Deakins, and the director is Denis Villeneuve. And it's so good.
Sicario. I'm gonna.
Yeah. It's got great reviews. Everyone loves that movie if you've seen it.
I'm texting the name to you.
Sicario. Sicario. I think that's how it's spelled. Dude, that's a killer movie. Benicio del Toro is so good. And Josh Brolin kills it in that movie too. And
yeah, so both of those guys are heavy hitters, man.
I didn't even know who Denis Villeneuve was, but that movie, they did a follow-up, it was all right. It was like, okay. But the first one, it wasn't directed by Denis Villeneuve. And so the second one is just not. But the first one is like, when people mention it, they do what I just did. It's just a solid movie. I mean, it's not like gonna blow you away, but it's just like, that's about as good as you can do that type of movie kind of thing,
So is it we're talking kind of in movies, so your directors have a good spread that you like.
Yes, they have to. They have to have at least 5 like movies that are 5 stars for me.
Yeah, and like
James Cameron.
genre, yeah, genre wise, they kind of get the full spread.
They do, because Wes Anderson's in there. That's not like any of these other guys, you know. But Wes Anderson and the Coen brothers, there's some similarities there, but they'd have their complete own style of how to do it. When it comes to just like a certain style of character depth, and they're so comic booky, you know, like the way that they approach comedy, it's like so storybook, like picture book style. I just love it. It's such a homage to film.
Isn't one of those guys the Big Fish guy? Who
I can't remember. No, Tim Burton did Big Fish.
Was it Tim Burton?
Tim Burton did Big Fish with Ewan McGregor. Yeah.
Yeah. You said storybook. That's a movie. Tim Burton is who he is, but Big Fish was like one of the ones that I really gravitated.
I loved that movie. I love that movie.
No, it's different. It's unique in its own way. It's its own thing, and I like the storytelling in there. It kind of weaves in and out of reality and fantasy in a way that doesn't quite make sense, but it does.
It does, and I appreciated it more and more as I saw it more times as an adult, and you kind of appreciate what the underlying message is in that movie. And Edward Scissorhands was a massive movie for me growing up as a kid. I mean, that was my first real. Tim Burton did Batman, and I liked it. I liked Batman 1 and 2, you know, but Edward Scissorhands, what the hell was that? That was like nothing I'd ever seen before, and it just felt so magical to me.
It's its own thing. It's its own unique thing. And then it's funny, everybody thinks that Tim Burton directed The Nightmare Before Christmas too, but he didn't.
Who directed that?
I can't remember his name. I honestly, I have absolutely no idea who he is. So, but I'll look it up. The Nightmare.
Was he the producer of Nightmare Before Christmas?
He is a producer, and so his name is real big up top. It says Tim Burton's.
That's
The
right.
Nightmare Before Christmas, but it was directed by why doesn't Henry Selick. Selick, Selick.
Whoever that guy is.
Whoever that guy.
Whoever that guy is. Before I forget, one question. Did you ever see a Coen brother movie, The Hudsucker Proxy, with Tim Robbins and Paul Newman?
Pretty sure.
Inventing a hula hoop?
Yes, I have. But more in my brain, what sticks out much more for some reason is whatever movie that I think it's a Jim Carrey movie that has Zoe Deschanel in it, and she's in a band, and her band is called Hudsucker by Proxy. Do you remember what movie that was? I think it's Yes Man. It's Yes Man.
Okay. Wow, that's
he goes out and he meets Zoe. She's singing in a band, and her band name in that movie is Hudsucker by Proxy.
Okay.
That it's such a weird, like the Hudsucker Proxy.
Yeah, that's weird and random.
They're really, but that's where I go. I think of that movie more, but I have seen. It's just been so long.
It's a great movie. Jim Carrey, however, you know, it's funny. I was talking about Jim Carrey a lot recently because I was filming that shoot in Destin, you know, and the Truman Show was filmed in Destin.
Yeah, the house is still there. You can I think you can Airbnb.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I recently talked. I think somebody who I know knows the person who bought the house or something.
Oh God, I bet they paid so much money because just the cost of everything out there is outrageous. But
But you were talking about Jim Carrey when you were filming.
Because we were filming in Destin, and the Truman Show came up, and the guy that I brought out, that lighting tech, the gaffer, he didn't know that they filmed that there, and so I was like, But I you know, just in regards to Jim Carrey, great movies, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is.
Yeah, I saw it in the theaters.
Me too. Good. So good. So good, man. And that director went to do Adaptation with Nicolas Cage. Did you see that one?
Maybe.
And I mentioned that because that was also Florida based. Like there's a lot of the movie that happens in Florida, and it's Nick Cage and Meryl Streep, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but that was an awesome movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Oh,
I
dude,
know,
it's weird.
man, that most recent Nick Cage movie, one of the more he's done. So he does.
With Pedro
He's like,
Pascal.
yeah, yeah. The one with Pedro Pascal
So
was
good.
stupid. What's it called?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I
So,
watched it too. It's
so,
funny, man.
oh yeah.
The
Oh
Paddington Bear reference stuff is like
yeah.
so
He's
good.
got the wax sculpture of himself with the guns and the whole. It's beautiful how the whole thing goes where he thinks he's a drug lord, but then he's not, or whatever.
Dude, it's so good. That movie is the reason that Tristan's interested in Nicolas Cage right now, because
Oh yeah, yeah,
Tristan was already a big Pedro Pascal fan from The Last of Us and Mandalorian.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and but
He did so good in The Last of Us as Joel.
so good.
I was worried. I was worried. Now I'm a pretty big video game nerd, right? And
Yeah.
The Last of Us is one of those games where it's like changes. It's a very cinematic game.
I've heard that. It's extremely
Oh,
story driven, right?
it's so good, and the story is so good. I mean, at the heart of it, it's a zombie game, but it's so deep and it has so many layers. I mean, it's and the show did a fantastic job. Particularly Pedro did a fantastic job as Joel. The problem is, and no spoilers to anybody, but The Last of Us Part 2, if you know, it's not good for Joel.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but
Oh, damn! You did kind of spoil that now, because I
sorry.
think they're making a second season, I believe. No, I
Yeah.
didn't want to know.
Well, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I loved it, and I loved. I mean, talk about side tangents of stories within that. I mean, that's what made it so good. You had almost a few episodes in there that didn't even barely have him in it. You just went down the road of experiencing life from a different
How about
perspective in that scenario.
yeah? How about the
So well
one
done.
with? How about the one with? I didn't. It's not the kind of topic that I typically watch, but the one with the two gay guys that were married.
Yeah, well,
What's his
dude,
name? The
well, Nick
actor.
Offerman,
Yeah,
is it Nick or
yeah.
I
Nick. His
loved
name.
him in Parks and Rec. He was like him and Andy
Yeah,
were the best characters, which was him and Chris Pratt.
yeah.
And that show was actually got really funny. At first, I didn't like it because I was like, it's an Office ripoff, but it got
That
good.
the way they did it, because that in the game. So in the game,
Yeah,
you come to like a house. They did it so well in the game. All they show in the game is that there's a dead person in the house and there's a note. And in the game you read the note and it's like some of those notes, like it's you're in a world that's been destroyed by the apocalypse or whatever. And you read this note and it's in the game, it's a husband to his husband.
hmm
The one husband died and the other one just couldn't go on, and it's like,
Well, wait, don't spoil. I
oh,
mean, I
sorry.
don't know. We're
Well, the
trying to
show,
endorse. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's an
yeah, yeah.
excellent show. So
And
good.
all it was, that whole episode of the show was just about one little piece of the game. It's just a letter. There's
I
no,
wondered how. I was like, "There's no way in the game it went into this much depth about this complete because you're not. Where's the opportunity to be a
yeah,
player? This is
yeah,
like a
yeah.
whole other story."
It's a whole tangent, and it's like in the game, you just come into a little house, and there's a letter there, and you read the letter, and that's all it is. But it leaves it open. The story's there,
Yeah.
and you kind of think about it. It's really profound in the game. That's the right word. It's very
Hmm.
profound. The contents of the letter and what happens in the scene, but then there's no more. But it leaves you thinking about it, and it's like just has the gravity of the situation where the show just said, okay, this was a huge part. And it's great that they actually knew, like the people who made the show knew this was a big little part of the game, a very little nuanced part of the game that was a really powerful thing. And they just expanded it and did it beautifully. It was so good.
It really did. I mean, there was a handful of complaints I had about the show overall. Just a couple of, I don't know about that happening, or they would just do this, or. But overall, it was like pretty mind blowing that it was based off of a video game and that they went that deep with that much story. And I understand that game in particular was as successful as it was because the story was supposed to be so good. So there was a high bar that they had to meet. You know.
Yeah, it's Naughty Dog. It's a Naughty Dog game. So
Crash Bandicoot.
Yep, Crash Bandicoot, and also, if I remember right, they made a movie about it and it wasn't good.
Crash Bandicoot.
Oh no! The other Naughty Dog game that's really big. It's the one. It's the one with it's like Indiana Jones, kind of like a dude.
Tomb Raider.
It's kind of like Tomb Raider, but it's a dude. It's Drake, Nathan Drake. What's it called?
I don't know. I don't know.
Nathan Drake.
You know, it's funny that we ended up spending this whole episode talking about movies. There are a couple of things.
Uncharted.
Oh, Uncharted. Yeah, I heard it had Tom Holland in it and Mark Wahlberg. I haven't seen it, and I heard it sucked.
Not great. Yeah, not great. But the games are amazing. The games
right on.
But go ahead. You were rolling in there.
Yeah, so, all right, I had mentioned that there was a film guy that I'd been corresponding with that actually literally shoots on film, and he's made a couple of movies. He's making his third one now, and he's going to be out in Nevada this summer. And so, long story short, he is asking if I could potentially go out there and help him film for a week of it. He has a special, I can't say who, but he's got a little cameo with an actor that people might remember from an old show. And he's got to be physically in the scenes, and so he needs somebody to help with it. Now, this would be operating the actual film camera. And I have, and I'm like, oh man, like it sounds crazy to try and fit that into the schedule because I have some pretty big aspirations of what I'm trying to do this summer to get to a new foundation point. There's the Muses stuff that I'm trying to wrap up for episode 3. There's multiple projects, and I'm also trying to get my studio set up so we can start corresponding musically and all that.
Yeah.
But it does sound really fun and cool and exciting and also like a little nerve-wracking because it's like he sent me a video clip of his camera literally running because we're discussing sound. He's asking for he has a set of skills and tools and knowledge, and I've got a set, and we both come at it from different directions, so we're sharing stuff. So I'm kind of helping him out with some audio recording ideas on how he could approach it because normally with film, you record ADR, you're gonna record a lot of audio dubs back in because with the film camera, 1, there's no sound going into it, and 2, film cameras are extremely loud when they're filming. So you have to have like sound is a whole issue to try and record sound when you're running an actual film camera. And I was like, well, tools have gotten pretty good now, you know, software wise. I'm able to get out a lot. I think with the lav mics that he's getting the same lav mics that I have. I recommended these Sanken COS 11s. These are like go-to body mics that are used on a lot of shows. A lot of movies use them. So he's grabbing some of those. I don't know how many. And I was like, you can dial out a lot. Then he sent me a video clip of his actual camera running. He's got the door open on it where you'd load the filming because he's not spinning film through it because that's, like we talked about, by the end of the day, each time you run a mag of film, you're talking about getting 8 minutes of recording. And after all the processing's done, you know, anywhere between around $400, $500 per 8 minutes that you're getting developed. So he's not running film in this example.
Yeah.
And dude, it is loud. I mean, I'm like, oh man, that is loud. I mean, it sounds like,
I'm picturing like,
dude, it's like a projector. It's like when you hear the projector spinning in class back in the day. Yeah. It sounds kind of like that. And I'm looking at it with the door open. I was like, oh God, that's so different. It's got there's no film running through it, but you see where all the little pegs are that the film would wrap around and spool up and go. I was like, there really is no electronics in this thing. It's like, it's a mechanical camera. And I'm like, I just like, it really clicked in my head. I was like, this is so different. And it's so unwieldy. You can't pick that thing up. I mean, it's got a huge lens on it like this. Yeah. Right. You got your follow. This is a camera that lives on a tripod or a dolly. That's how you use it. You can't handhold this thing. There's no way to do that. Right. It's the exact camera apparently from 1968. It's a real film camera from 1968. and it was used in the underwater scenes of Titanic. The movie Titanic. Yeah, it's like that's what they were using.
James Cameron's Titanic?
Yeah, as far as I understand. Yeah. Because they
Wow.
later like brought that in for that old look. I was like, oh my God. And it's got a motor. So it's been retrofitted with a new motor system. So the motor to operate it is literally an external box that sits to the side of it that's powering and motoring it. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. I want to help, but dude, I got a learning curve ahead of me. Now he'd set up everything. He just needs somebody looking through the shot, making sure exposure's right, making sure something's not falling into the frame, making sure that the take was good, another assessment of how the acting was going, making sure we got coverage, moving things. I could obviously help in a lot of ways, plus lighting and audio. So anyway, I don't know. It's on the table. I'm waiting to find out if I can do it or not, based on other work that I'm waiting to hear if I have the yay or nay on. If I get too booked up with officially going out of state for a couple of things, then I won't be able to do it. But it's on the table. It's an interesting conversation, and it's just like I bring it up because we're talking about filmmaking. This whole episode. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I really hope it does work out, because I want to hear, and
Yeah.
I want to hear the story, because the experience you're going to have operating it and working with it, and
Yeah.
it's going to give you a whole other perspective.
It'd be
in what
fun,
you do.
man.
Yeah.
It's a totally different approach. Get out in the desert. The only thing I've filmed out in Nevada, is cars. So this would be very, very different, getting to film scripted dialogue scenes.
Yeah,
And on film, and I'm always at the helm. I do 99% of the time, I'm just like kind of doing stuff by myself, and I'm, executing all these decisions. This is, coming onto somebody else's film. I don't have any, I want to respect that. I'm just there to offer ideas and options on how to pull off what the vision is. So it might be fun to.
It's fun to take the partner seat sometimes, right? When you're doing what you do. I mean, that transcends all sorts of stuff, and that's how you grow. You don't. A lot of people, you blaze your own path, but that's super important to be able to experience other people's perspectives, other people's stylistic things like that.
Seriously, especially if I already know I like their style.
Yeah.
And
you've showed me you've showed me little clips of the stuff he's done. It's so cool. It's really cool.
It's really cool, dude. It's very cute, the music.
Yeah, it's super gritty. You're talking about the inside of that camera. I had a little experience the other day that had some things I don't think about, like growing up with the VCR, right? The VCR, the mechanical, how like you hit eject and it goes and the little tape comes out, and there's little motors in there, and it, the whole thing. So in the vehicle I'm driving right now, it's like a 99 Jeep, and the other day I was in Walmart with my son. I was like, oh, we just got AC running, and it's like running good, and I was like, yeah, let's get some new seat covers for it. Seats are all old, 20-year-old seats. And I was in there, and it's got the Wrangler has a cassette deck. Cassette player. And I got one of those cassette to auxiliary cord adapters to do it, and just that whole, you were talking about the inside of the camera, that whole cassette deck going in. Kyron was just fascinated. He's 14. He's like, what is that? He's like, what does it do? It's like, it's got a motor in there. How does it get the sound? Like, how does it get the sound out of there? I was like, it's magic. It's like a little machine in there doing bidding.
Dude, it's so different.
Yeah, sorry, I had to tell that story. The back to directors and film styles. Like what you showed me of your buddy that's doing the film and the stuff in Nevada. There's an actor I wish had more, or sorry, not an actor, a director that I wish hasn't done much in a while is Neil Blomkamp.
Oh, who
did District 9, Chappie, and then has a compilation that he did. I think he did at least one of them, but the Oats Studios.
Yes.
Seeing Oats Studios was so amazing.
Dude, I started to watch the beginning of it, and I thought it was too amazing to not watch with Tristan. Then I tried to organize a night with him, and then here we are 2-3 years later Forgot about it. Forgot about it.
Never watched
Haven't
it.
seen it. It was so good. I stopped. I was like, I'm not watching this without Tristan.
That's
And
when
yeah.
that's when I was I'm a huge Alien fan, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the original Aliens. They've made some bad ones. The Alien versus
Mm-hmm.
Predator ones were real weird. Like two different franchises. Kind of leave them alone. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I got so excited because he has in Oat Studios, he has Sigourney Weaver in the first. It's like
Yeah.
it's an anthology. So there's several short films in it, but Sigourney Weaver's in it, and she's amazing. And she's still she's still Ripley to me every time I see her. And the first one is really, it's very alien like. It's aliens and but they're more like mean slavery type aliens that have invaded. I won't tell you anymore, but it was so good. And then there was conversations about Neil Blomkamp doing an alien movie.
Oh, wow.
I was like, this was before we did Cue the Muses, but I was so pumped. That was like the dream. I was like, this is going to be the return of Alien. It's going to be so good. It's going to be redemption for the bad ones. It's going to be its own unique thing. I was so excited. They were talking about it. And then Ridley Scott was like, nope, I'm doing it. And he came back, and then we got Alien Covenant, which
So was this decided after Prometheus? So did he do Prometheus, and then Neil Blomkamp was brought into the conversation?
Yeah, he did Prometheus. Ridley Scott did Prometheus. Prometheus was fantastic. I absolutely
liked it.
Love
I
it.
liked it. Yeah.
It's like an origin story. It's so good. Covenant is also Covenant is pretty much Prometheus Part 2, really.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I mean, I
liked it. I liked it.
I just think what we didn't get from Blomkamp was something that would have been its own really rad thing.
It would be the most raw Alien movie ever.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Like, I wish that Alien Covenant would have just been Prometheus Part 2, and they would have let Neil make his Alien movie. But it didn't happen, and I've been really jonesing for more Neil Blomkamp, and I just hasn't happened yet. I watched Elysium a couple weeks ago. That was one I wanted to watch with. I think I watched it with Amber. Super good. It's Matt Damon and really cool. I think the bad it's like Jodie. Is it Jodie Foster or who's the?
I can't remember. I've only seen it once, but I did like it, and it was so Blomkamp. I mean, I didn't know his name at the time, but I knew it was the same guy from Chappie and District 9. And I think District 9 is still my favorite of his. I watched that with Tristan. He was very curious. He somehow came up in meme culture, and so he wanted to check it out. I was like, I'm telling you, it's intense. Because Blomkamp's style is just so raw. I mean, he's like the heavy metal. If he did Alien, it'd be like the heavy metal version of Alien, you know?
Yeah, gritty.
It really would be
ugly, and everything in his movie, every scene, it looks like everything's painful.
Yeah.
He visually conveys like just like I feel like some people probably have a hard time watching his movies because it's like
I do.
They're not torture porn, I don't think, but it's so intense, and I
got to be ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I'm into it. Like, it doesn't make me feel like a way, but it's like it puts me in that experience, and I'm just like, I like that intensity, like that.
Yeah.
Holy shit, this is affecting me. This is good, and the stories are always great too. Even Chappie, I really like too. It had those two stupid rapper.
Yeah.
They were funny
or whatever. Names. They were real popular for a minute there.
Yeah, Australia.
I think they were African, weren't they? African?
Maybe South African. That's right.
Yeah.
African. Yeah. I get those confused. It's all South African. The actor that plays Stanley Wickus in District 9, the main guy. He's a South African actor.
Well, is Blomkamp South African?
I think he is. Yeah.
I think he is because District 9 was African too.
Yeah,
Like out in Africa too.
it takes place in Johannesburg.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where the film takes place, and I think Elysium's also filmed in the same location. Same, I think so, but it's got the same guy in it. You know that.
Yeah.
In District 9, the same actor that played Wickus plays I can't remember his name, like the badass guy that the lady in the ring world hires to like come find the other guy, and like it's Wickus, and in District 9 he's like he's like nerdy and real small.
Yeah.
And then he's like obviously he's all buff and he's like the big bad guy, like the badass bad guy in Elysium. I was like, that's so cool that, you know, he made this full transformation from like the lovable good guy, innocent, terrible things are happening to him and he's on this journey, and then he's like just a heavy is in the Elysium. It's really cool.
It is cool, man. That guy is very good. I think he'd make a killer alien.
Yeah.
Hopefully he gets the chance. We just hit our hour, but random, because you were like, that's a fantasy of yours. I've always had this, not always, for the last like decade, I've had this such a random mashup fantasy. I don't know why I want these two things to come together. I wanted Darren Aronofsky, the director of like The Wrestler, Requiem for a Dream. Yeah, Pi. He's kind of got a brutal style to him, but there was something about, did you see The Wrestler?
That's the one I haven't seen. I do need to see it.
It's so good.
I saw it on a streaming platform the other day, and I was like, I gotta watch Mickey Rourke.
Very good. It's a little hard for me to watch because there's some elements about it that's too similar to my dad, and my dad passed and everything, and it's a little bit weird, but it's so well done. And when I watch that movie, it's the best wrestling movie I've ever seen. Which I'm not like a huge on wrestling, but I'm watching like the Iron Claw right now, which is a more recent one with Zac Efron and a couple of other guys in it. And it's like, it's good, but it's not. It still isn't anything like The Wrestler with Darren Aronofsky directing it. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to see the style that he brings to it, that he has a raw style. I mean, some of his stuff is just so intense. And I wanted to see him bring that to Legend. And I wanted to see it be a second coming, not like a remake, a continuation with Tom Cruise this age in Legend with the goblins and the devils and Darren Aronofsky directing it, and make it just absolutely brutal. And I just think it'd be insanely good. It's such a weird mashup.
Dude, I totally think so. I totally think you're right. Because it's been a long time since I've seen Legend, but it's like Legend was really like shiny and one of those like 80s fantasy movies, right? Where everything's
I loved it. I grew up watching it. So yeah.
Listening and
but it had like, the devil was so good, dude. Tim Curry as the devil was awesome. The goblins were it was like scary. It was like fairies, but it was dark, but it was also like, It was Ridley Scott. That's funny. Wasn't that Ridley Scott that directed that?
It might have been.
That's hilarious. I'm like 99% sure it's Ridley Scott. And he killed it. He did such a great job. Such a weird, random movie. But I think about like Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai and stuff like that. And Tom Cruise and like, I mean, what he could bring to the table now. In that movie, he was a boy. You know, he was like he was like in his early 20s or late teens. I mean, now as like an adult, like a battered warrior of whatever's happened over the course of time.
It is Ridley Scott. Confirmed.
Ridley Scott.
That would be. Yeah, old, like, I don't know his name, but it's like old man Tom Cruise from Legend. It would be so cool.
It'd be so cool. And just to make clear, last thing I'll say, if you guys haven't seen Legend and you do want to watch it, because I think it's an awesome movie, do not watch the director's cut, because it is really bad. Like the Ridley Scott ruined it. The director's cut has a totally different soundtrack. The soundtrack was done by Tangerine Dream. The one that's in the theater, Tangerine Dream did the original soundtrack. It's awesome. I listened to just the soundtrack on
Yeah.
Spotify. You can queue
Okay.
it up. And it's like this magical, weird, ambient 80s synth thing. And then he just put in all this, like on the director's cut, it's just like total cheese. Music didn't match anything. It made everything feel so silly and like a play. And I was like, this is ruining it. And he drew out these scenes, and I was like, I couldn't even finish it. Couldn't even finish it. So don't watch the director's cut. Watch the theatrical release version.
That's yeah. I've heard that before. I
Oh,
think
really?
there's. I will not go in another tangent because
Okay.
we're at time. But on
Yeah.
the next episode, there's another movie
Okay.
that I want to talk about. We can pick up next week on the topic of director's cut and changes and multiple
Okay.
versions of movies. There's one particular. Maybe I'll even get you to do a little research and watch it. I'm not going to say what it is
Okay.
here, but we'll talk when we
Yeah, we could add some director's cut conversation to the next
Yeah.
one. I've got some things to bring up too. So yeah. All right, dude. Hey, guys, thanks for listening to this movie talk. Cue the Muses is our album rock band / sci-fi episodic mini series. It's a 4-parter, and the third part will come out this summer, guys. I've got the music video that each episode or chapter unveils a new music video off of our album, and nobody's heard the song yet, and it's got a different singer and everything, and we have a different singer on every song. Super fun. I'm color grading the music video for it now. After that, I've got like 2.5 more scenes to edit, and then I can package that chapter up, and it is coming out this summer. So I'm really excited. The music video is very cool. I got the layout done. The color grading is underway, so that's about 60 hours ahead of me just to do the color grading and effects. But then I'll tackle those scenes, and we'll get this guy out there. I'm excited.
Me too, man. I can't wait. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for staying with us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Peace.